So next to me is the Toyota Supra. Now, if you are an enthusiast of any kind, you have for sure heard of the name. It is pretty iconic. So back in 1979, Toyota came out with the Celica Supra, which was their new sports car basically. The Supra name ran all the way till the 1999 model year. And of course, the 90s Supra was the legendary Mark IV, getting super popular, of course, from the movie Fast and Furious, but also the tuner heads at the time, turning those cars into 1,000 horsepower monsters. That 2JZ motor could stand a lot of power. Fast forward to about 2019, the Mark V Toyota Supra went on sale. So there was about a 20-year gap from the 4th generation till the 5th generation car. Now, I've owned 2 of these Mark V Supras. I had a 2020 model year, and this is my 2023. And currently the 2024 is still on sale, and most likely this car is going to go to the 2025 model year. Now, as far as pricing for the newest Toyota Supra, they do offer a 4-cylinder. It's not really all too popular. The 6 cylinders come in around $55,000 to $60,000. Now, here's the weird thing with the Mark V Toyota Supra. It has been met with a lot of controversy given it's not built by Toyota. This is actually a car built in conjunction with BMW. That's right, a German automaker and a Japanese automaker have created the legendary Supra. This is built in Europe and it uses BMW parts. The engine is the B58 that you're going to see in tons of BMWs. The 4-cylinder is the B48 that you also see in tons of BMWs. And pretty much everything around this car is a BMW part. Now, while it's a little odd to see BMW and Toyota collaborate to build the legendary JDM Toyota Supra, it's a pretty cool collaboration just because Toyota doesn't have a performance inline 6-cylinder. The 2JZ was a legendary motor in the previous generation car. Toyota has nothing even close to that motor. It's also like a 30-year-old engine, which wouldn't really work in today's day and age. The B58 has been proven with tuning and mods. These can make about 700 horsepower pretty darn easily. So looking at the 3-liter inline 6-cylinder turbocharged motor, this engine is producing 382 horsepower with 368 pound-feet of torque. Now that's what Toyota/BMW are claiming. However, when dynoed, the manual transmission cars put out around 400 horsepower to the wheels. Automatics put closer to 380 to the wheels. So it's an underrated motor, certainly making a ton of power. You can get this with a 6-speed manual or the ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. The Supra also weighs in around 3,400 pounds, which is pretty lightweight in today's world. 0 to 60 will come in at around 3.8 seconds on the automatic and just about 4 seconds for the manual. Now, the Supra also has a ton of awesome performance features, like a set of Brembo brakes. You're also going to see a limited slip rear differential. The different drive modes will adjust the adaptive suspension, variable steering. The exhaust has 2 modes, and the engine tuning will even get sharper when you put this into sport mode. So moving on to the front end styling, when Toyota unveiled the FT1 concept, that was kind of what we were expecting the new Supra to look like. And while this is significantly toned down from that concept car, when you look at it, there's actually a ton of styling cues from that concept car into the production Mark V Supra. You have an awesome set of LED headlights. They have these 6 beams in them, auto leveling, a really massive LED daytime running light that gives it a really aggressive front end appearance. I like how the center where the Toyota badge, it's kind of a cone shape, so it's a very unique style for the front end. You have 3 different intake ducts throughout the front bumper. That way you can, of course, get all the cooling to the radiators as well as functional front brake ducts. You're going to see a nice satin black front splitter, really cool contours within the lower bumper to give it a stylish performance-focused look. In pictures on camera, it doesn't quite really come off perfectly, but once you see the Mark V in person, the style comes together. You can honestly see some Mark IV Supra heritage in this design along with that FT1. Now, the side profile on the Mark V Supra is gorgeous to say the least. The rear fenders are massive. It is this huge curve around the rear wheel arch, giving it a really sporty vibe, and it flows perfectly into the ducktail spoiler integrated into the trunk. Now, there are some fake vents. That is a big thing that people don't like. These pieces on the door, they look cool for trim pieces. It looks like it's supposed to be a huge vent in here, but it is plastic. It does nothing. It's all integrated into the design though, so it does look cool overall. And then you have really sleek and clean body lines throughout the side profile, a very rounded design on the door panel, fake vents on the side of this clamshell hood. So once again, yeah, there is some gimmicky things for the design, but it does come together nicely. You got a very cool low roofline, just giving it that coupe appearance, and then a nice set of 19-inch wheels. You got the satin black side skirt that matches the front splitter, and overall the proportions are fantastic. It's got the longer hood like a Supra should, shorter back, and you can tell it's a sports car with a really performance-focused design. And then in back, once again, really gorgeous design with Toyota and Supra right in the center. A nice set of LED taillights finished in the red, and I like how they're very three-dimensional. They stick out on the top to just give you an extra style. You got a nice rear diffuser, dual exhaust tip, of course backup camera, parking sensors. A really unique feature, the reverse light is right in the center, kind of like in some race cars. You can also see the back of that ducktail spoiler that's integrated into the trunk. So overall, the style comes together. It's a gorgeous looking car, especially in person. So like I mentioned, this car is built with BMW, so you are gonna see the BMW throughout the interior. It's not necessarily the most up-to-date BMW lineup, so if you compare this with a new M2 or something like that, there is a significant difference. So if you're not familiar with maybe the last 10 years of BMW, you probably wouldn't even notice. But what that does translate into, it's a really nice interior. These seats are incredibly comfortable. They are a bucket style sports seat. However, there is a ton of padding to them. They have adjustable bolsters as well. All the power controls to where you just fit perfectly. I'm 5'11" and I have plenty of room to even put a helmet on. There's a double bubble design in this roof because Toyota knows you're gonna be taking this car to the track. Now, like I said, 8-speed automatic or the 6-speed manual is available. The 6-speed manual, Toyota took this transmission and completely overhauled it. This is the only transmission that Toyota has done for this car. This transmission is not the same that is in any BMW. So this transmission is incredibly notchy, amazing to go through the gears. They did change this center tunnel a little bit from the automatics. There's a little bit of a bump out for the manual to move this whole system to control the screen over a little bit, and then your sport mode icons are in a different position versus the automatic. This trim piece right here is shorter on the manuals. The automatic kind of comes down like the old Supras, giving you that wraparound feeling. But you're gonna have your typical technology in here. A BMW infotainment screen looks just like any BMW from a couple years ago. All your normal tiles. There's Apple CarPlay as well, built-in navigation, all that good stuff. You do get physical climate controls down below, which is a great touch when modern cars are all going to the screen. And then the gauge cluster has a cool integration of digital and analog. Along with that, you do have some plastic on the door panel, some fake leathers for your armrest. On the dash, there's a little bit of fake stitching. But overall, it is a pleasant place to be. You even have 2 cup holders in the center, a little bit extra storage, wireless phone charging, and a nice sized glove box. Now the Toyota Supra does have about 10 cubic feet of cargo space in the trunk. There's even the 2 speakers back here with a cutout in the center. You can fit a set of golf clubs in here, which is pretty darn practical. There's a nice cutout on the left side, very flat load floor, and a removable privacy cover as well. So while this is a 2-seat sports car with all the performance, honestly, this is perfectly fine for a daily car. You can go grocery shopping, do a Costco trip, and it's a pretty practical sports car. So what is it like to drive the Mark V Toyota Supra? Quite honestly, it's really nice. When we are in the normal drive mode, the suspension is incredibly forgiving, the steering is decently light. You do have a good view around with decent visibility. Some people complain over your right shoulder is a little tight, but if you poke your mirrors out just a tad, I have zero complaints or issues with visibility in this car. The seats, they hold you nice, they fit you well, and even at 5'11", you can be a lot taller and still fit comfortably in this car. I know a lot of Supra owners ranging from younger than me to, retirement age. So the Supra seems to appeal to a huge demographic, which you don't normally see on sports cars. They're either for the young, for the middle, or for the old. The Supra, it seems like a lot of people end up buying these and really enjoying them. With this 6-speed manual, of course, if you don't like the manual, the automatic's great. The ZF 8-speed, incredibly snappy with the gear changes, the best torque converter automatic on the market. Now this 6-speed, I love. It's incredibly notchy. It's easy to do manual rev matching. It is a joy to row through the gears, and it feels really, really good. One of the best manuals I've ever driven, quite honestly. Now, with this, when you hit sport mode, the whole car tightens up. The suspension is now stiffer, the steering is much heavier, throttle response has increased, and the Supra starts showing its performance. Now for 2020, the inline 6-cylinder was the same as the current one. However, it had a little bit different turbo and turbo manifold setup to where it had about 50 less horsepower. 2021 and up, you now have the higher horsepower one. It's a little bit more linear. The original one was very torquey. My old one tuned made 560 wheel torque, with like 450 wheel horsepower. So the old one made a lot of instant torque. This new one, not quite as torquey, but you still get just a really linear power delivery, which I actually do like a little bit better. So when you get up to speed in this car, few little pops. It is fast, and the funny thing is, I've never tuned my manual Supra. This, I put it back to stock. I don't crave any more power out of this car given it's a manual. With the automatic, of course, you can enjoy the power with no interruptions. Manual, it's a significantly different driving feel because there's a delay every shift. But man, oh man, it's fast. Like, you get up to 70 without really thinking. The traction control also manages the power very well to where, while it's rear wheel drive, if you leave traction on, it's pretty doable. You can pin it and it's gonna save you most of the time. If you hit the traction control button once, it puts you into more performance focused traction to where you can slip it without it just cutting all power. And then of course you can turn it off and rip some massive burnouts and donuts. The agility to this car I like. Now it has electronic power steering, which not everybody liked in the beginning. This is one of the best steering cars I've ever driven. It is direct, it is heavy enough, it is just so perfect. When you make an adjustment to the steering wheel, the car does it instantly and goes exactly where you want. The suspension is stiff enough to where it's not at all back-braking even in sport mode, and yet there's no body roll. It is so precise when you're taking those sharp turns, and especially when you pair it with a manual. For me, it just creates an ultimate driver's car. It is so much fun taking this car into the mountains and just starting to push it more and more. So I like the two personalities. If you get the manual, this is the car for ripping through the back roads, a fun toy weekend car. If you get the automatic, you can do the daily stuff and build it up with even more power for drag racing and highway pulls. And at the same time, it truly is practical. You know, my wife and I went to Costco literally last week, loaded up the trunk with $200 worth of food, and it was perfectly fine. We had a guy walk by us with a minivan who kind of was not making fun of us, but saying like, you know, good luck, you know, shopping here in that car. And we had just as much stuff as he did in the minivan. And yeah, we were in a fun sports car. So can't complain. If we hit traction once, we're in the sport traction mode. Let's do a little bit of an acceleration. And that's beyond 60. Like 0 to 60, like it's so quick, it's so fun, man. So ending thoughts with the Mark V Toyota Supra. To be honest, this has got to be one of the absolute best, if not the best, two-seat sports car for $60,000. There's nothing really that comes close to it when you look at the competition. The Nissan Z is the closest competitor, however, it falls short in every single category when you compare it to the Supra. Unfortunately for them, that's just how it is. Now, it is a little unconventional seeing this is a BMW collaboration rather than being a car that Toyota truly built themselves. But when you look at it, you know, the Nissan Z is a true Nissan. It's pretty much the same platform as the 350Z, just with newer Nissan and Infiniti parts. It's nothing really new, and that's kind of why it's not as good as this. BMW makes some of the best sports cars. They make performance driving cars, and it shows. When you drive this car, you can see the M performance in it, but Toyota's tuning with the handling, the characteristics of how this car should drive is still there from Toyota. And of course, Toyota was in the engine to make sure the B58 could stand up to being a Toyota. So the collaboration honestly makes this car this good. Also on top of that, had this been a true Toyota, it probably would have been an RCF platform with a V8, just shortened a little bit. Honestly, it would have been heavy and slow and kind of a plasticky Toyota interior, maybe with a little bit of a Lexus touch. So I think a BMW collaboration with an inline 6-cylinder, I think this is more of a Supra than a V8 Supra on a Lexus platform would have been. And that would have been the only way Toyota could have made this without losing their butts on money, because it would have cost so much to develop an engine like this on their own. So the collaboration is cool. The biggest issue we might see with Supras, what happens when these are out of warranty? Will Toyota dealers be able to support this car given it is BMW on the electronic side will they even know what to do when they plug these things in if they have issues over time? So that's gonna be the one thing we're gonna have to watch as the Mark V starts to show its age, and if Toyota discontinues this shortly, which they may or may not do. From what I've already heard, BMW does not like this collaboration, mainly because the Z4, which is this car underneath, those are the two cars, the Supra and Z4. The Z4, nobody cares about. It does not sell even remotely close to the Supra. It does not have the Supra's popularity. So BMW seems like they got the short end of the stick without even trying. So the Supra is a successful car. It's a really sweet sports car. It looks awesome. It handles amazing. There's so much power potential. The fun factor you can't get. There are other awesome cars at this price point, but obviously two-seat cars, there's not really all too many. So the Toyota Supra, honestly, one of the best bang for the buck sports cars. You get so much for the money. I really enjoyed my ownership with this car, and we will see what comes next. I may or may not be selling it in the next year. We'll have to see. I have some other big plans I'm working on, so we will see the fate of my Supra personally. But nonetheless, if you are looking for one of the best sports cars out there, check out the Toyota Supra. If you guys enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for plenty more content, and I'll see you all in the next video.